Hello, my name is Joshua, and I will be reviewing a public policy proposal. My public policy is the ending of mass incarceration. The public opinion initiative highlighted in 2017 that the public opinion on mass incarceration is quite complex. You have one side that is more race biased as being African American and of Latino descent that feel like the courts are really mass incarcerating their kind, and then you have the wealthy or the higher class, which just so happens to be predominantly Caucasian, that feels like the crime policies are keeping those that would be quote unquote bad or negative out of the world by incarcerating them. Underfunded, overcrowded state prisons. Prisons overcrowding has caused a variety of issues, such things as not being enough space for prisoners to actually reside within the correctional compound, inflation in crime rates, changes in laws, and I think that even though we've improved our law enforcement tactics, we've actually went to an extreme with the arresting and the trying and the convicting of individuals because we now have the technology and the means to do so. A little overview. I've worked both in community corrections as a case manager and I've worked as a correction officer, so I kind of see the end result of somebody getting arrested and then going to court and then becoming convicted. What is the issue? It's a continuous increase in offenders being sent to prison, high recidivism rate, a high rate of offenders returning to prison for violating or unsuccessfully completing community supervision, new criminal offenses added to penal code. One of the biggest issues was the quote-unquote war on drugs, harsher penalties for certain types of offense, increased role of victim and victim advocacy in the court and the parole process. Convicted inmates serving a greater portion of their sentence. If we're already overcrowded and we're keeping people for longer, we're just creating a double problem because now not only are we bringing new people in, but we're not letting people go. Aggressive, tough on crime approach. The criminal justice system, in my opinion, has a very narrow view and uses very little discretion. Like, there are individuals who were just caught with a small amount of marijuana serving the same time of time what people caught with, say, cocaine and heroin. And yes, I do think that the war on drugs and different drug charges, we have to be realistic with ourselves. Opiate is our biggest drug crisis, but doesn't get as much negative backlash as marijuana, something that does way less harm to the American society. The interest group that I would like to focus on is called Generation Waking Up. I have put their website information on there. You are more than welcome to view their actual website. Some of the things about Generation Waking Up, they served a very interesting fact. The United States contains 4% of the whole global population, yet we have 25% of the world prison population, meaning we account for 21 more percent of the prison population than our actual global population. So that fact right there is a little disturbing. So that means we account for 1/4 of the entire world's prison population. This is counting China, Russia, Africa, Eastern Europe, Asia, South America. We account for 1/4. Like, Mexico has real drug lords running around and really doing heinous crimes, yet we account for 1/4 of the world's prison population. Another thing about Generation Wake Up, it kind of shows you what their goals are, what their projects are. I just wanted to highlight some because I really think that they're very, very critical. One of the biggest ones is the Joint Advancement Project of Safe Quality Schools campaigns to end the school to prison pipeline. We are putting so many young and vibrant and youthful people within the penal system. So by the time they are 22, 24, 25, they are actually been fully engaged in the penal system and probably is going to be in and out of the penal system for the rest of their life. So my question is, how can a young person be successful if they're already experiencing the troubles within the penal system? The Drug Policy Alliance, like I said before, I feel like we need to have scientific base backing for why this drug is going to get more time than this drug. All drugs are not the same. If you take aspirin, if you smoke weed, if you snort cocaine, if you shoot up heroin, those are four different type of drugs. And to be honest with you, we need to be more realistic on what a drug is, because we forget that at one time America had banned alcohol during the prohibition, but now people are allowed to drink alcohol whenever, however, wherever. Are we truly addressing the issue? I can honestly say that we are moving at a snail pace in a horse race when it comes to mass incarceration. I feel like there are a few feel-good stories here and there. Somebody gets released, oh, that's great. But a person that done 20 years in prison who's been wrongfully accused of a crime, it shouldn't take them 20 years to get released. It shouldn't take a person who was smoking marijuana, or it shouldn't take a person who, whatever the case may be, three strikes, but they're none are non-violent and none are completely heinous. Like, we're not really addressing the issue of crime. We're just simply using the correctional system as a warehouse to house people. The Democrat and Republicans, I did a lot of research, and there are a few blimps here and there are people that's trying to fix the system. But you look at Clinton and how hard he was on crime, how he really pushed for crime. You look at Reaganomics, you look at Nixon, you look at George W. Bush, even Obama. And while Obama did do some great things, you're looking at the Democrat Party as a whole. Had the Democrat Party been more behind him, I think Obama would have had a greater impact on just the mass incarceration problem in general. Political gridlock. I believe that one of the biggest issues is nobody wants to admit that the war on drugs and the war on crimes was something that might have not have been completely right. We have this thing in America where we are very resistant to say when we are incorrect. As you can see right here, I showed you a graph from 1925 to the year 2012. Look at the spike of people being in prison in both state and federal prison. As you can see, it's ridiculous. The war on drugs, the Reagan era, the Clinton era, the Bush era. In 2012, it was 10 times its average in 1995 through 1973. So are people committing more crimes in this new decade, or are we being more stringent on what we would consider what a crime? Real world examples. According to Claire T.R. in 2009, 1 out of every 100 Americans is behind bars. Think about that. 1 out of every 100 American has spent time behind bars. That is really amazing if you really think about it. We have 3.5 times the higher incarceration rate than Mexico, and we all know that Mexico is the drug capital of the world. So how do we have a 3.5 higher incarceration rate? That's even counting that we already know that there are going to be dirty politicians, but there's dirty politicians in America. Common fact, we're now dealing with politicians that are being accused of a sexual misconduct that still haven't stepped down for office, but steady yet we're locking up people like it's going out of style. I don't understand that. Um, the way I would correct this, I would use the functional system. Marvin in 2012 highlights the system of cooperation, explains, and adaptation. I feel like we are not changing with the times, that the correctional system is still part of the Reagan system, part of the Nixon system, and it's not part of this new 2017 system. Ending mass incarceration. Black Lives Matter movement has done a wonderful job addressing some of the issues because we've had so much police misconduct in the last couple of years. Austin Cordums in 2013 suggested that we eliminate prison for lower level crimes, which I do agree with. And then myself personally, I believe that we need to reduce the minimum maximum sentences. And then I think we really need to do away with the 3-strike law. And there are some that hypothesize that legalizing weed on a federal level will decrease our prison population by 33%, which would be a massive and incredible start. How I would push this public policy, like I've said, the NCAAP and the Black Lives Matter movement is so great right now, and it's picking up steam because of the misconduct of police. But I also believe that Bernie Sanders is a Democrat that will be able to influence the other Democrats to push the end of mass incarceration. In closing, being hard on crime does not mean we have to stop being realistic on what crime is. It's ever an evolving question, and my greatest question is a person who is smoking weed or a person that's done a small crime be in the same prison as somebody that had committed murder. These are my sources. Thank you and have an amazing day.